My photo taste is the Pinterest because they are the best.
Hello, I'm Rob. Welcome to 6 Minute English. With me today is Finn. Hello, Finn.
Hi, Rob.
In this programme, we're going to be talking about blood.
Oh, yes, blood. Did I ever tell you, Rob, that, I really hate the sight of blood?
Oh.
And I've even been known to faint. Now, that's to lose consciousness at the sight of a needle.
Oh, dear. Come on, Finn. I think you've got a lot to learn.
Maybe.
You wouldn't be here without it, It's a fascinating topic. All sorts of discoveries are being made these days which could change medical science forever.
Yes, well, you are right, of course. Blood was even thought to relate to human character. People were hot-blooded. That meant quick to anger, or cold-blooded, which meant lacking in passion.
There were all the myths about vampires when young blood was thought to revitalise older people. And there's a dreadful story that a Hungarian countess had hundreds of young women killed so she could bathe in their blood and stay youthful looking.
Right, okay. And in Roman times, if a young gladiator died in battle, people used to drink his blood because they thought it would keep them healthy.
For 3,000 years, people have been cut or given leeches to let out the blood because they thought that would make people better. Incredibly, it carried on until the 19th century, but it actually made people worse or even killed them.
Right, okay, so I won't be doing that today.
No, okay, instead, how about answering a question all about blood, Finn?
Go on then.
If you laid out all the blood vessels in an adult body, end to end, how long would they be? Would they be A, 30,000 miles, B, 100,000 miles, or C, 200,000 miles long?
Well, let's say 100,000 miles. That's B.
OK, well, we'll see if you've got the right answer at the end of the programme. OK, well, let's talk more about blood now. We've heard about blood in history, but Finn, did you know that today beauticians are running businesses in which people pay to have their blood extracted and then injected into their face?
Yeah, I have heard about this. Yeah, it's thought to rejuvenate. That means to give new life to their skin. Michael Mosley has done just that to his face in this experiment. He's a doctor and presenter with the BBC. Let's listen to him talking about it. He uses an expression that means go faster. Can you tell me what it is?
Sometimes called the vampire facelift, PRP, platelet-rich plasma therapy, claims to accelerate healing and reverse the signs of aging. First, my blood is treated to make a concentrated solution of platelets in plasma. Next, this is injected directly into my face.
Ooh, ouch. And the word he used was accelerate. Now that means to make faster.
And he said they treated his blood. This means changed or transformed it.
Well, today, of course, controlled blood transfusion is a completely normal medical practice that saves countless lives. And blood donors, the people who give their blood, are an important part of healthcare.
Yes, Finn, but there's all sorts of other amazing things that blood can do. If we're running at altitude, that's high up, the limbs get tired because there's not enough oxygen. The blood then starts creating new red cells and pours them into the system. That's why athletes often train in the mountains.
Altitude training, isn't it? And apparently the different types of food you eat can have an immediate effect on your blood, or rather, the element of blood called plasma. So if you eat a cholesterol-high breakfast, for example, very soon after that you can see the fat in the blood.
Nice. Ideas about how blood moves around your body have changed a lot over the years too. The Romans thought blood flowed one way and came out of our feet and hands and was then burnt away. But William Harvey in the 17th century found that blood circulated via veins and arteries. These are the tubes in our body where blood is carried around.
And let's not forget clotting. That's when the blood hardens. If our blood didn't clot when we cut ourselves, we'd be dead within minutes. It is really fascinating, isn't it? And we're just beginning to understand stem cells. Now, these are also in the blood and are used to repair organs in the body.
Modern science is really helping us to understand blood properly for the first time and showing us the way forward.
Now, Rob, before my blood boils, could you let me know the answer to the quiz question, please?
Yes, so I asked you, if you laid out all the blood vessels in an adult body end to end, how long would they be? 30,000 miles, 100,000 miles, or 200,000 miles?
Ooh, well, I said 100,000 miles.
Wow, and you know your blood vessels because you got that question right.
Well, I counted them earlier, yes, I measured it all.
Good. And how do you feel about blood now?
Well, I'm probably a bit scared of it still, but now that I know all of these wonderful things that it does, I really get why it's so important.
Great, yeah. So, let's remind ourselves of some of the words we've said today, Finn.
Here we are. Faint. Rejuvenate. Transfusion. Cholesterol high. Veins and arteries. Clotting. Accelerate. And treated.
Thank you. Well, that's it for today. Please visit bbclearningenglish.com to find more 6-minute English programs. Until next time, goodbye.
Goodbye.
6-minute English.
From the BBC.
This is a download from BBC Learning English. To find out more, visit our website.
6-minute English.
From bbclearningenglish.com.
My for the taste is to beat the rest, because they are the best.
Okay, so the real question is, who the hell do you want in your kitchen? The government, who will take your freedom and your wallet, or the food industry, who's already taken your freedom, your wallet, and your health? That's your only choice.
So, given that choice, what do we do?
Ultimately, we have to figure out how the food industry can still make money selling real food. And the answer is, can they? Absolutely, they can, but not with the current business model. The food industry grosses $1 trillion a year in the United States. Of that, $450 billion of it is gross profit. Now, healthcare costs in America total $2.7 trillion a year, of which 75% is chronic metabolic disease, of which 75% of that could be preventable if we would do something about our diet. That's $1.4 trillion. Triple what the food industry makes. We spend triple cleaning up the food industry's mess than they actually make. The bottom line is they're going to drive this bus till the wheels fall off. The only answer is real food. We just have to figure out how to make it available and profitable for everyone.
By the way, I'm assuming the sugar industry must really hate you?
Sure.
Yeah, they hate you.
In 10 words or less, yeah, they loathe me.
Yeah.
That's the way this works. My job is to provide the science so that the public can make its own informed decision and then...
But not many people are saying what you're saying.
Well, look, there's a lot of noise in the system for obvious reasons. You've got all of this cacophony of people with their own vested interests. I have no vested interest other than taking care of children and seeing children get to adulthood to have a decent chance in life. That's my vested interest. And to be honest with you, it ought to be everybody's vested interest.
So, are you just totally anti-sugar, or do you indulge, just a little bit?
Of course, now and again. The problem is, I'm for dessert.
Yeah.
For dessert.
Right.
But if you're going to have breakfast cereal with orange juice and a Capri Sun and a granola bar, and that's all before 3 o'clock, then you got a problem.
Robert Lustig is a professor at the University of California in San Francisco. You can see his entire talk at ted.npr.org. We're back in just a minute. Stay with us on the show today. Ideas about how we connect to food. I'm Guy Raz, and you're listening to the TED Radio Hour from NPR. It's the TED Radio Hour from NPR. I'm Guy Raz. And on the show today, food. why we eat what we eat, and why our food is sometimes so much more than what we put on our plates.
We all think we taste food in our mouths. And yet that's an illusion in the sense that most of what you're tasting, the fruity, the floral, the meaty, the herbal, the burnt, the smoky, are actually being decoded by our nostrils. But our brain's doing this wonderful job of ventriloquizing the information I get from my nose and making me believe as if it's coming from my mouth.
This is Charles Spence.
Head of the Cross-Modal Research Laboratory at Oxford University.
What is the Cross-Modal Research Laboratory?
So it's a lab here in the psychology department where we look at how the senses interact.
And yes, our mouth and nose interact when we eat, but so do our mouth and our ears.
We're doing experiments where we were feeding people potato chips, and each time they bit into a potato chip, we would change the sound that they heard, sometimes making their own crunching sounds louder, sometimes quieter, sometimes boosting just certain frequency. And we're able to show that as soon as you change the sound, it changed the crispness, the crunchiness, the freshness, and these other attributes there.
Charles says how our food sounds, even looks, can change how it tastes.
One might colour a white wine artificially red with an odourless, tasteless food dye. And if done appropriately, you'll find the experts, the winemakers, will get fooled into smelling and even tasting what they think is a red wine. All the aromas, the tobacco and the dark chocolate and the stone fruits and so on, even though what they're actually tasting is the white.
All of this, Charles says, feeds into a larger idea that how we experience our food is more than just about the ingredients. Here's Charles Spence on the TED stage.
I'm here this morning to tell you about the perfect meal. We're all convinced we can taste the food. We can enjoy the flavours and aromas of the wine in the glass. But in fact, a lot of what's going on is created by the atmosphere in which we eat and drink. But the question is how to study it, how to measure it. And the tendency amongst the scientists, like the neurogastronomists, is to stick people like you or I in a brain scanner, give them something to eat, something to drink, and see which parts of the brain light up. This is it. It's kind of your brain on flavour or neurogastronomy. But I think there's one problem here, which is that, in fact, you have to imagine yourself in one of these brain scanners, kind of lying on your back with your head clamped still, with a tube in your mouth that periodically squirts in some drink. You can't swallow it, because if you swallow it, your head will kind of jolt, and that will spoil the brain scan alignment. So it kind of tells you something useful, but it doesn't tell you about the perfect meal, because no one has had their perfect meal in one of those situations.
What exactly defines a perfect meal?
So it's probably different for each and every one of us. I mean, it can be something very, very simple. It can be fish and chips by the seaside, or it could be on your summer holidays by the beach somewhere. These often will stick in people's minds as the best meals. But what I guess has to be there is the mood you're in and the people you're with. So it's kind of the social aspects of dining. I think no one has ever had their perfect meal when they're fighting with their partner, say. Part of the thing about these kind of holiday meals that seem to stick with us and resonate and you can never quite capture when you get back home is your mood. You're probably relaxed because you're on holiday, you're less stressed, you're probably with your family, and all these things come together to help enhance the experience and make it something sort of truly memorable.
You think about, how many times have you met a friend who's just come back from a holiday and they say, oh, you've got to try this amazing red wine that I tried in Greece, and then you try it and you were sort of thinking...
So that phenomenon has a name. I think we've all got our own versions of it. We've got the Provençal Rosé paradox. So it used to describe Northern Europeans, particularly who go for their summer holidays to the Mediterranean, and they're sitting somewhere on the side of the sea, sipping that rosé wine, probably looking into their lover's eyes. The sun's out, they can hear the sounds of the sea, the smells of the salty sea, it's all there, and that tastes just like the best glass of wine you've ever had.
Yeah.
So great that you want to buy a bottle or a case and bring it back to share with your friends and show what good taste you have, and you bring it back, and then you're disappointed.
And your friends are like, this is really cheap rosé.
Yeah. And you say, what happened there? Is it something about when the bottles were in the airplane, it got a cold and that, spoiled the wine? I think it's not about that at all. We never eat nor drink nowhere. We're always somewhere in a certain environment, in a certain state of mind, and our mental state and the environment both together kind of impact what we think we're tasting and how much we enjoy it. And we sort of, in a way, sort of misattribute, I suppose, some of the pleasure of the situation and put some of that pleasure into what we think about the food.
In fact, says Charles, these ideas about how we experience food have actually convinced some chefs to try out certain methods of flavor enhancement. And these are methods that have nothing to do with the ingredients.
If you're in a good mood, food tastes good. If you're in a bad mood, it never tastes good. It's this illusion about flavour. We think we're tasting the wine in the glass, but our brain cares about everything else. The sound of the seagulls, the smell of the salty sea air, the warmth of the sun on our backs, all of that is playing into the experience, and top chefs are capturing that insight in the dishes they serve. So Denny there, 2 Michelin star restaurant in Vevey in Switzerland. When you go to his 2 Michelin star restaurant, white tablecloths, there's no cutlery on the table, there's no glasses, there are no plates, there's no nothing. There's just a plastic cow. And people wait, say, well, he told us to be here at 7 o'clock, and we're here, and everyone's here in the restaurant now. I can see all the tables are full. Nothing will happen until somebody picks up, curiously, that plastic cow. And when they pick it up, he'll go, it's a little cheap €1 cow. And he makes a mooing sound, and as soon as the first table does it, they'll be laughing. And then you can guarantee within a minute, you'll have a whole restaurant full of mooing cows, laughing diners, and that is the moment when the first dish comes out, because Denis has successfully, with nothing more than €1 a table, enhanced the mood, and he knows that will improve even the taste of a 2 Michelin star restaurant.
Wow. So like from a neurological perspective, do we fully understand what's happening, like why that's the case?
No. So we don't know that it does happen, that it is the case. It's all a kind of a classic example of just how important the environment is for what we taste. I work with a young chef called Joseph Youssef here in London, and he's been sending out questionnaires several weeks after people have been to his restaurant to say, what do you remember?
Yeah.
And you say, well, what flavour was the soup? And people are convinced they can remember, but in fact, when you check what was actually on the menu, they're kind of constructing something. They remember the experience, what they felt about it, and their brain kind of fills in the rest about the details of what they think they thought they were eating.
Are most chefs that you talk to, are they on board with your ideas? Do they think, yeah, it is about the experience, he's right, or do they say, no, this is totally absurd, it's all about the food and the taste of the food?
Of course, there are still some chefs who say, no, it is just what I was taught in culinary school, it is just the sourcing, the preparation, but nothing else. But you sort of say, okay, so in your restaurant, do you serve the food with plastic cutlery? No, it's silver, isn't it? And where is your restaurant exactly? Oh, it's in a country manor house looking out at nature. So they're saying all these things on the one hand, but clearly you can never sort of serve food just by itself. It's always served on something in a certain environment. And those kind of contextual factors are always there. They cannot be avoided. So certainly I think there are a growing number of the younger chefs who are now popping up, starting up their own venues, who are really, think, for the first time in history, saying, we don't need to just know about the ingredients and cooking preparation techniques. We really need to know about the mind of those that we're serving.
Charles Spence wrote about his research on how we experience food in his latest book. It's called The Perfect Meal. You can see his entire talk at ted.npr.org. So let's get just a little bit more creative about what's on our plates, because that's what Marcel Dieke does.
Okay, my name is Marcel Dieke.
And you are in Wageningen? Where's Wageningen?
Wageningen. It's very difficult for you to pronounce.
Yeah, I can't do that, yeah. Where is that?
Wageningen is in the center of the Netherlands.
And in the center of the Netherlands, about once a week, Marcel and his wife have what some might consider an unusual ingredient with dinner.
And it's something that we put, for instance, over a rice dish or in the vegetables or in the salad.
So what do you buy? Like, which ones?
We have 4 species that are for sale in the Netherlands. That is locusts, crickets, mealworms, and buffalo worms.
Yep. Bugs. Which, for the record, do not taste like chicken.
Quite often they're a bit nutty.
And do you buy them alive?
No, we buy them at this moment freeze-dried. You can bake them, or you can fry them, or you can cook them.
Marcel Dieke is an entomologist. He studies and eats bugs. And he's actually written a whole insect cookbook with dishes like
pancakes with mealworms.
And for lunch,
a quiche with mealworms in it.
And of course, dessert.
Chocolate topped with a locust.
Okay, those dishes might be a little unusual. But eating insects actually isn't, because a lot of people around the world do it every day.
It's about 2 billion people on this planet, so that's about 28%,
Wow.
30% that do that on a regular basis.
Even if you're not eating whole crickets or caterpillars, you are still eating insects. You just don't always know it.
Every one of us eats insects. It's impossible to not eat insects.
Even if we don't want to eat insects?
Even if you don't want to eat insects, and I'll give you an example.
Yeah, please.
Tomato ketchup. Now and then there will be one tomato that has a worm in it. And, well, not all of those will be spotted, and so a part of them will end up in the ketchup.
Marcel says chocolate, peanut butter, noodles, pretty much any processed food has a small dose of insects. And in the not too distant future, he says that we all might need to eat bugs out of necessity.
Flick to link